Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva signed a decree allowing black and mixed-race people's inclusion in political decision-making posts. Also in the UK, a parliamentary panel hears former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's allegations in the Partygate case over Downing Street lockdown parties back in 2020. Ethiopia's parliament removed the Tigray People Liberation Front from the list of terrorist organizations, a significant step towards establishing an interim regional government following the end of a two-year civil war. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on Tuesday signed a decree paving the way for at least 30% of the positions to be appointed in Brazil's federal government to be filled by black and mixed-race people. The Latin American leader, who returned for his third presidential term in January, has vowed to make Brazil's government reflect the face of Brazilian society, where more than half of the population is black or mixed race. The decree seeks to advance racial equality in this country of 213 billion. Brazil, the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery in 1888, has the largest black population outside of Africa. However, it is plagued by structural racism, with fewer than 5% black executives in the largest 500 Brazilian companies, according to a 2021 survey.
The truth is that no country in the world will be a true democracy while people's skin color determines the opportunities they will or will not have throughout their lives. Racism is at the root of the inequalities and therefore needs to be fought like a plague on the plantation. Only then will we have ever stronger harvest.
Nicaraguan Foreign Minister Denis Moncada denounced the criminal imperialist actions of Washington as part of the commemorative forum for the 20th anniversary of the United States invasion against Iraq.
Once again, we denounce once again, we condemn once again from less Nicaragua and always beyond the North American imperialism as the worst war criminal and criminal against humanity of all times. And we never tire of demanding respect for our people, our sovereignty, our countries, and our political, social, and economic models, freely chosen that reflect the virtues and magnitudes of our triumphant resistance, because throughout our history of courage, we have expelled from these sacred lands, blessed by the God of all victories.
Nicaragua's foreign minister also denounced the invasive actions of the United States and demanded an end to the criminal attacks by the North American nation.
We feel proud of our path, of our daily walk, and we know that evidently the days of the Yankee Empire are numbered. We warn you, gentlemen, with peace, with hope, with certainties, with rights, justice, truth, is not to be trifled with. Do not dare to continue to tamper with the freedoms, rights, and the paths of work, harmony, brotherhood, and prosperity that we carry in this other world, which is no longer a deer, a subject, or a slave of their satanic appetites.
And next Sunday, March 26, Cubans will vote for those who will represent them in the highest governing body of the Caribbean island, the National Assembly of People's Power. TeleSUR spoke with 2 of the 470 candidates for deputies in the next legislature. Our correspondent in Havana tells us more about it.
Who sings in this unprecedented concert full of colors, music, and commitment in the historic University of Havana is the troubadour Nelson Valdez, a young man on whom the voters of the central province of Cienfuegos have placed their hopes. The people of Cienfuegos elected him to be their representative in the most important government body of this island. He confesses to not having imagined such recognition. How do you see yourself if you become a member of parliament?
How do you envision yourself if you become a member of parliament? Above all, I try to be close to the people in the neighborhoods, to be able to contribute a little bit to love as well, which I think is essential in these difficult times for the country, to count on love as the first shield to be able to overcome so many challenges and move towards a better future and hope, of course.
This poet, who sings songs to the passions and feelings of his days, says there are many challenges in these difficult times that Cuba is going through.
The communication corporations are trying to destroy everything that moves towards social issues and towards inclusion of the people. And I believe that the main task of the National Assembly will be that to continue leading the working class not only in Cuba, but to be an example for Latin American to be able to make a better world, which is possible and is of course far away from the interests of the great powers. We are a small, poor country, but we are a country with a homeland which is independent, and I believe that this is our fundamental strength to move forward.
Popular songwriter and performer Arnaldo Rodriguez, who mixes genres and styles with the unmistakable flavor of the Caribbean to tell unique and danceable stories, is another candidate for a seat in the new parliament.
The deputy that Cuba needs today is one who is with the people, a person who feels that what the people feel, what the people live, who has the direct connection with the neighborhood, with the community, with the people's needs, and today a lot of decency is also required. The president has spoken a lot about this decency is necessary. Ethics are essential, morals are necessary today. I believe to play a good role as a deputy.
These musicians who sings about the Cuban countryside and its traditions and perform songs such as Pa' mí no hay café, La Lucecita, or Tierra de la Soledad, wanted to give his followers this song shot in a humble neighborhood in Havana about the significant times that the island is going through.
The present and the future of the nation are at stake in these elections. We are living a very complex moment. Cuba and the world as well, and I believe that what is at stake above all things is how the revolutionary process, how the Cuban socialist process continues to readapt itself to the times, to the situation it is going through, and all of this while maintaining the essence. I think that this is the most complex aspect of this situation, how to maintain the essence of a social project that has distinguished itself in the world and at the same time adapt to the new economic and social context of the world.
On March 26th, around 8 million Cubans will go to the polls to vote for a new parliament that is intended to be diverse and inclusive. Musicians Nelson Valdez and Arnaldo Rodriguez are two of the 470 candidates to make up the new governing body that will steer the destiny of the island for the next 5 years.
Fabiola López, TeleSUR, La Habana.
Thank you, Fabiola, for this report, and let's take a short break. But first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the UK, a parliamentary panel hears on Wednesday former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's allegations in the Partygate case over Downing Street lockdown parties back in 2020. Johnson is expected to argue that because he was relying on guidance from trusted advisors when he told Parliament that COVID-19 rules were followed at all times. However, in new evidence, this then Cabinet Secretary Simon Case and Johnson's Director of Communication at the time, Jack Doyle, would disown those testimonies. If the inquiry concludes that any misleading statement made by Johnson was intentional or reckless, he faces being suspended or expelled from Parliament for being contempt of the House of Commons and force the election of a substitute for the seat that he holds since 2015. In France, protests continue against the pension reform of Emmanuel Macron's government. Some 10,000 people took to the streets Tuesday evening in Nantes. They were carrying torches, banners, and chanting slogans against the proposed pension reform that raises retirement age from 62 to 64. Also, the police bashed demonstrations minutes after the protests had begun. Last Monday, 300 people were arrested in clashes with the police forces. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin set their sights on shaping a new world order as the Chinese leader left Moscow on Wednesday. During his two-day visit, the Chinese leader showed a strong solidarity with his Russian counterpart and his people against the West, while adding that the Asian giant had an impartial position regarding the conflict in Ukraine. Both presidents also referred to each other as dear friends, promised economic cooperation, and described their countries' relations as the best they have ever been in. In a joint statement released after meetings held behind closed doors, the leaders accused the West of undermining global stability and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization of barging into the Asia-Pacific region. Now we move on to other topics. At least 13 people were killed and 204 injured in Afghanistan and Pakistan on Tuesday following a 6.5 magnitude earthquake in the Hindu Kush mountain range of Afghanistan. Official sources in both countries released the casualty figures on Wednesday, a day after the quake. In Afghanistan, health centers reported so far 4 dead, including a minor, as well as 75 injured. Also, the effects of the earthquake were also felt in Pakistan, where at least 9 people were killed in the northeastern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, while 160 people were injured. The tremor was registered at 10:17 p.m. local time on Tuesday, with its epicenter being about 40 kilometers from the Afghan town of Jurm in the northeastern province of Badakhshan. In the United States, a severe storm continues to affect the state of California. Emergency officials deployed teams across the state to respond to the impacts of 12th atmospheric river battering California. Heavy rains and snow fell in different parts of the state on Tuesday, unleashing a new round of flooding and power outages. So far, 5 people have been injured, 4 of them seriously, by falling trees in various parts of San Francisco. Meanwhile, more than 200,000 utility customers across the state had no power. In Argentina, a prolonged drought is causing serious damage to crops. More than a third of the harvest has been lost and exports have fallen sharply. According to experts, the country will lose $14 billion in exports as a consequence of the lack of rain. According to the latest projection of the Buenos Aires Grain Exchange, 84 million tons of wheat, barley, corn, sorghum, soybean, and sunflower will be harvested, which means a 35% decrease with respect to last season. The situation seriously affects Argentina's economy, since the agribusiness sector represents 65% of the country's U.S. dollar revenues. March 22nd is the United Nations World Water Day, marked annually since 1993 to raise awareness about the pressing need for billions of people around the world to have access to clean water and sanitation. In Ivory Coast, as in many African countries, communities struggle day by day to subsist without drinking water available. In Abidjan, the country's port city and fast-growing economic hub, many communities find themselves without clean water provision. Women collect water from streams to meet household requirements. Many people in the West African nation lack safe drinking water, and several die annually of diseases related to poor water, sanitation, and hygiene. Likewise, a rise in extreme weather conditions caused by climate change has added to the hazards. In this sense, local officials in the country blamed insufficient electrical power for their pumps in part of the problems. On March 22nd, the United Nations Water Conference opens. The start of the event coincides with the celebration of World Water Day, which has been held since 1993 to raise awareness and inspire action to address sanitation and the international crisis of the precious liquid. Scheduled until Friday 24th, the conference takes place in the midst of a global water crisis aggravated by climate change, so it will focus discussions on the challenges, solutions, and accelerate action around the precious liquid. According to the UN figures, 1 in 4 people, that is 2 billion people in the world, still live without access to safe drinking water. It's expected that heads of state and government, ministries, and stakeholders from all participating sectors will adopt the Water Action Agenda as a major outcome that will demonstrate countries' commitments to achieve these goals. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Wednesday, Ethiopia's parliament removed the Tigray's People Liberation Front, or the TPLF party, from a list of terrorist organizations, a significant step towards establishing an interim regional government following an end of a 2-year civil war. The delisting is a prerequisite for the Tigray People's Liberation Front's participation in an interim regional government after the end of Ethiopia's civil war. The front had been labeled a terrorist group in May 2021 after leading the northern region of the country into war with the federal government in late 2020. The parliament has now approved the decision to pull it out of the list with a majority vote. The move, supported by most of the country's politicians, will strengthen the November 2022 peace deal between the party and the federal government. The deal ended the conflict in which tens of thousands of people were killed and millions were forced from their homes. On Wednesday, Uganda's parliament passed sweeping anti-gay legislation that proposes tough new penalties from same-sex relationships and criminalizes anyone who identifies as LGBTQI+. While more than 30 African countries, including Uganda, already prohibit same-sex relationships, the new law will be the first to prohibit simply identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. For the bill to be introduced into the penal code, it still has to be ratified by the head of state, Yoweri Museveni, who has already described homosexuals as deviations from the norm and accused the West of wanting to impose this sexual inclination on Africa. Rights advocacy group Human Rights Watch warned earlier this month that the law will violate Ugandans' rights. Israel's LGBTQI+ community commemorated 35 years since the legalization of same-gender relations on Wednesday. The demonstration was also held as a sign of resistance against the advance of the anti-rights government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In fact, the leader of the Israeli government is pushing for a judicial reform that will give the executive branch greater powers than the rest of the state authorities, an initiative that thousands of demonstrators have taken to the streets to denounce as an anti-democratic move. In Syria, the Aleppo International Airport suspended its operations on Wednesday following an Israeli missile attack. According to the Ministry of Transport of the Arab country, the decision was taken due to the damage suffered in its facilities after an Israeli aggression on Wednesday morning. As a result, all flights are being redirected to Damascus and Latakia airports. Earlier that day, the Syrian Defense Ministry had denounced that Israel had launched a missile from the Mediterranean seaside, adding that the airport's runway and navigation equipment were damaged and destroyed in the attack. For its part, the Syrian Foreign Ministry considered on Wednesday that the absolute silence of the UN Security Council and the unlimited support of the U.S. administration and its allies encourage Israel to continue its aggressions. And weeks of exciting international baseball all came down to this: the United States team versus Japan, Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout for the World Baseball Classic title. The final game of the 2023 World Baseball Classic between the tournament's two most dominant teams ended with a matchup everyone was hoping to see. Ohtani struck out its Los Angeles teammate in the ninth inning to close out a 3-2 victory for Japan. The win gave the Samurai team its third WBC title and ended Team USA's quest for a repeat crown. Ohtani, a Major League Baseball starter, was held from pitching until the ninth inning by Japan manager Hideki Kuriyama. His first pitch was over 100 miles per hour and spiked in the dirt against Jeff McNeil. Shohei, however, rose to the occasion and got Trout swinging on a tendency-breaking slider to end the game and give Japan the gold medal with a 3-2 victory.
To see what we came to see, and Shohei Ohtani got it done. Incredible. Mission accomplished for Japan. USA.
Great energy there. So we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.